Hi everyone, my name is Natalia and welcome to the group. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about couples therapy. Um, Not just how I work with couples, but how some of the major theories out there work with couples. Um, when I do an intake, I like to provide each of the partners with an individual assessment. This helps me to know what's going on with them without them having to sort of disclose everything um, during their sessions. And then I can bring it up also in the session and see what's going on and um, how I can help them. I think it's important. I do have the no secrets policy. I do work in that way. I don't see them individually at all, unless it's something major and I need to see them individually, and I would do it. I haven't had that experience up to now. I always see the couple because that's the unit that I'm working with. But I know other people do see them individually, and that's how they work. I know EFT does that, and Esther Perel did talk about how she sees them individually as well. Um, that is up to you and how comfortable you feel about that. So, in order to go over couples, I thought it would be great to go over a little bit of what was talked about during the Evolution of Psychotherapy conference that took place in Anaheim a few weeks ago. So, I will go over my notes to sort of give you a little bit of that content. So, I'm going to start with Gottman. And for Gottman, I recommend this book, um, The Seven Principles of Making a Marriage Work. I think this is a wonderful book and has some of the love maps in here, um, which are wonderful to sort of get to know the partners a little bit better. I really like them. And if you think you know your partner so well, I dare you to try those love maps. They're incredible. And it has some other exercises. Um, I will talk a little bit about the Soften or Start Up in terms of discussions for the couples. So this is a great book. Oops, my bookmark. This is a great book to work with. I have done the level 1 training for Gottman, and I find that a lot of the things that were said there and a lot of the resources were very useful. So some of the things that Julie Gottman said during the conference were there is no shelf life for love, the importance of homeostasis in a couple, the 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative, right? You want 5 positive things being said to 1 negative in the relationship. That's what you're looking for, to that level of homeostasis. But every relationship has a different kind of homeostasis. But we're talking about that ratio of statements in the relationship. Then they discuss, of course, Gottman's work, what's called the physiological flooded. So how they notice that is by an oximeter that is placed on each of the partner's finger. If you're wondering if I do that, no, I don't, because it starts beeping during the session. I don't think I could do that, but I know a lot of therapists work in that way. And it tells the therapist and it tells the person, which is most important, that they're being flooded, so they can start working on self-regulating their emotions. The important thing about that is that, as Julie was saying, that Julie Gottman, is that we can empathize when we are physically flooded. So that means everything that the partner is saying is like not being registered. They can't register what is being said, and they can't empathize with anything the partner is saying. Julie also talks about the positive startup when they bring up an issue, how they're bringing it up, how are they discussing this issue with you, are they turning towards each other, accepting each other, the influences of each other, and then the importance of the repair. How are those discussions being repaired? How is the issue brought up being repaired? Looking into it is that criticism and contempt, because those ones generate stonewalling and defensiveness. Let me see what else. This is very important. So the earlier the effective repair, the more effective. So the earlier the couple comes after an incident, such as, for example, an affair, the earlier they come for therapy, the the more chances of success rate in terms of sort of resolving the issue. And the importance of taking responsibility, which is something that also Esther Perel talked about during the conference and in her book as well, the importance of taking responsibility for what's going on. Another useful tool is the Gottman Repair Checklist, which I actually posted on the files as well. I think for the Gottmans, that's probably it. Now let's move on to Hendricks, Harville Hendricks, Getting the Love You Want. This is a wonderful book. What I like about this book is, the view that he has of relationships. And I'll read you one little sentence in here that I think describes what imago is for him. It says, if your parents wounded you by being unreliable, the sensible course of actions will be to marry a dependable person, someone who would help you overcome your fear of abandonment. So, I think it's a great book. But then also at the end, just like Gottman's book, it has some exercises. I like this one, Childhood Wounds. It has wonderful exercises. You can use them during the sessions, or you can, suggest them. I think it's great during the sessions. This one's actually, I really like them. The love maps can take a while. Some of the things being said by Hendricks was the importance for Hendricks is the space in between, not the space within. What I mean is that the interactive space in the relationship, the quality of that space. Imago works with something, I have done their training as well. It works with something, what's called the Imago dialogue. It's this constant checking with the person if I'm getting the right information, if I'm hearing them well. By the way, Gottman does an exercise very similar like that too. The difference is with Gottman, they write down what the other person is saying. With Imago, they are listening to the person and checking if they're getting the right information, not writing down. The advantage of this exercise is learning listening skills, because it's very different from hearing. Hearing is one thing, listening is a different one. A lot of couples, what's going on, and we do it all the time too, is that when someone's talking, we're thinking what we're going to respond instead of really listening, being there, present for that person and listening to what's being said. This is important. And to move on from that, it talks about the affirmative process, movement from romance to power struggle. When did that take place? The structure of the conversation. How is it that they are establishing this conversation? Looking at the little important dynamics in the conversation. So now I would like to move on to Sue Johnson, which was very interesting, her talk as well. I have not done her training. It's a 4-day externship coming up in Pasadena. If you're interested, I can tell you about it. This is her book. I liked it. I haven't married her there yet. I really like Hendricks and I like Gottman. And I now, my new love is Esther Perel. I really like her book. I think she has a lot of interesting points when working with couples. I think you should read the book before you think of taking the training. This is very useful. So she talks about how the therapist has this job of sort of slicing the problems thinner and not being so focused into the content, but in what's underneath that content, going deeper, which is something that also other therapists have talked about. That's something my supervisor used to say all the time, Harold. Don't focus so much on the content. You need to stick more with what's underneath. Look beyond the content. Be able to be emotionally present for one another in the relationship. I think that's very important to bring up when working with couples. Are they emotionally present for each other? Validate their strengths. I think that's should be the beginning of working with couples. Validate the strengths of the relationship and sort of normalize or their struggles. Not just validate them, but normalize their struggles. Let's see. I know Sue Johnson had some more stuff. Yes. She talked about the importance of the attachment within the relationship, and the more securely attached, the more they're able to be accessible and responsible and attuned to one another. If you're not secure, you won't relax in the relationship. You won't be able to enjoy the relationship. She talks about how you can fall in love again and again and again in a relationship, and how this is very important to keep in mind and to bring it up for relationships as well, that they can fall in love once again, one more time. Interesting, during one of the panels with Sue Johnson, Peter Levine, and I think it was Otto, the one that was there, Peter Levine brought a beautiful quote from Otto, which says, "The body of the beloved becomes the geography of personal meaning." I thought that was so beautiful. So that in terms of sexuality, being together and allowing the flow of sensations, the flow of connection, and if you feel safe with the other one, it's much easier to sort of open up all your emotions. Let's see. So, moving on to now Esther Perel. She has a lot of interesting things that she brought up. She looks at affairs, and she has a new book that came out, The State of Affairs, Rethinking Infidelity. If you are curious about her work, I think you should listen to her podcast. Where Should We Begin? I think that's the name of the podcast, and it's wonderful. I haven't read this one because I'm still working on her first book, which is Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. She has the Unlocking Erotic Intelligence. She has an interesting look at relationships. I think in terms of she has a separation. She makes a separation, a distinction between love and oh my God, I'm going blank. Love and desire. She makes a very interesting distinction, and she also talks about this shift of sexuality around desire. During the conference, she also made a statement because someone asked a question about what's happening with families. Are we focusing so much in couples? What's going on with families? And she talks how the couple is the sort of like the ground for the family, right? So I thought it was so interesting. It says preservation of family depends on the emotional connection of the couple. So without that emotional connection, it's hard to talk about couples, right? Something very beautiful she said too is, I like to meet people before I meet their problems. So when they come into the office, it's not just that they're bringing their problems, they're bringing who they are to be helped, and who they carry everything, even it's like from childhood, right? It's a lot of stuff from childhood that they have been carrying, and now it's playing out in the dynamics of the relationship. So some of the things that she says that we should ask is, where did you meet? How did you meet? What drew you to each other? I think that's very important. What was the thing that drew you to each other? She also discusses how throughout our life, we have several marriages. Some people marry the same person many, many times. And by that, she means that we develop different relationships throughout time. Um, One more thing about Esther Perel that she talked about while discussing her book, The State of Affairs, was how divorce now carries more respect than forgiveness. So we're talking about shame in here and how you can help couples work through that shame. By the way, another great book that I like about affairs is called After the Affair. I'll read you a little bit about it. It says, we enter intimate relationships blindly, often effortlessly, sweep up with passion and idealization perception of our partner. This is important because Esther Perel also talks about what were your expectations of this relationship? What were your dreams about this relationship? That's something to also discuss when working with the couples. She talks about how affairs are about desire, not always about love, and seeing the affair as a symptom. And no marriage is affair proof. I thought that was good to sort of state that it sort of normalizes a little bit the situation as well, not minimize it because that's not good, but normalize it. And discussing the loss because your first marriage is now over. That loss of that marriage that used to be. But now you can develop a new one. So affairs destroy relationships, but affairs can remake relationships. Talk about some of the things that you could talk about during the session also is talk about how the affair was revealed. The importance of having one or two people during this time to sort of talk about what's going on, so don't choke on this secret, and reclaim that sense of value, helping them reclaim the value of the relationship. What would be the legacy of that affair? Well, I hope you enjoy this video and I hope it helps you in some way. I had a lot of files that I post in there. You have to create your own way to work with couples. I do believe that, and to work with anything. If you have any questions, you can email me at nataliaboucher@gmail.com, or you can send me a private message, or you can post your questions here under the video, and I will do my best to answer them. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.